one lone warrior must clear his name and stand against his evil nephew's army of thugs in order to obtain the greatest prize and answer once and for all, whose soup is better? We watched Kung Fu Chefs today on
The f*** is this?
Alright, so in honor of Kung Fu Chefs, I have some pitches.
Okay.
I have some movie titles that I want to pitch to you that's keeping the same sort of naming convention of martial art plus job. It's just going to be like my elevator pitch here, so I'm just going to run some titles by you.
Yeah, this is why you agreed to watch this movie.
This is what I got here. Okay, so first one, this is pretty good. I'm pretty.
I'll be the judge of that.
Pretty pleased with this one. Karate Coroners.
Mm-hmm.
I think that kind of speaks for itself. I think there's lots of things you can do with that. It can either be a coroner who all the dead bodies they come back to life as zombies and he has to fight them with karate, or it's a karate guy who's fighting the Yakuza, but then after he kills all of the Yakuza, he embalms them and he makes them look nice, and the Yakuza boss is all like, I should have your head, but you made them look so peaceful and good. Anyway, so, Karate Coroners, I don't know, think about that.
I thought about it.
What
else you got?
What else I got here? Okay, this one's a bit of a stretch. We got the Taekwondo man. You kind of have to work into that. Yeah, he's got like a nice jacket and a hat, and he'll recommend like a good restaurant for lunch and everything, but don't make him mad. He's the Taekwondo man. And then this last one, I think the plot kind of got away from me on a little bit on this one. I just wrote down Mortal Kombat, but for carpenters.
You spent all day on this?
I'm just picturing because I think there's something in there, because I'm just picturing like a competition between two people, and they've made and they've sanded a deck. And then, an old man comes out with a can and a brush, and he goes, "Finish it!"
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, and however you wish to self-identify, to The Fuck Is This? Where we dive through DVD bins, sort through streaming apps to find the weird, the bizarre, and the unloved.
Well, this is the first time that my joke was so bad, Jameson full-on hijacked the intro from me. He did the full one that time, too, from the beginning. That's good. I'm pleased with. I'm very pleased with you.
Well,
as much as I'm pleased with my great movie titles.
I mean, at least one person in this room is proud of the other.
It's me to you, right?
Yes, exactly.
I'm proud of you and your list of accomplishments. I'm Cass Lesgard, and joining me always is Jameson Rafter.
Hey, everybody! Welcome back.
Yes, it's the only podcast on the internet that's hosted by two guys with no previous audio recording experience and talk about a subject that practically every podcast on the internet talks about, but now it sounds slightly worse.
So, take that for what it's worth, everybody. Are you pitching? Are you pitching other shows for people?
I'm pitching one show, and that's stop listening to our show. No, I'm not. No. To add a little color,
flavor.
To add flavor.
Like that. How about that?
This whole marathon to really bring the dish together here
to a boil.
Put it under a heat lamp. I'm out already. We're in 5 minutes and I've already run out of cooking terms. I can't remember it. No, we are still currently in my basement. We are in between recording studios. We kind of got some stuff we got to figure out.
Yeah.
The truth of the matter is if we had gone back to the way we have been doing these recordings throughout the last year and the pandemic and everything, over Zoom with me on one mic, on Jameson on another mic, it would have sounded a lot better than it does right now just in my non-soundproofed apartment on one mic. But I'll tell you one thing, we're not doing it over Zoom because I'm tired of Zoom. I can't do it right now. I just got, we're allowed to be in the same room, and it means so much for me to just be able to reach out and touch this guy. Touch it in. Are you getting this microphone? That's actual human contact.
It's assault. Send help.
Hey, speaking of salt, salt is a main
Yeah.
ingredient in cooking. This is going to be good. This is going to be the entire episode.
That could lead to poisonings.
Yeah, they never really delved into that.
No.
I'm getting ahead of myself
Yes.
here. Today's movie is Kung Fu Chefs.
Yes, it's about time that we watch another one of our crazy Chinese comedies, I suppose. It was a movie that I had available, and it was like fuck it, I'm never gonna watch this on my own time. May as well do it for the show.
And as it turns out, we didn't end up watching it because let's go into this right here. This is an actual physical DVD that you have.
Mm-hmm.
It's maybe one of the most amazing DVDs I've seen in
Box
a
covers,
while.
Box covers, you mean?
It's really good. No, just like the way it's like designed, like it opens and there's like different compartments to it too. That doesn't need to be there. That's just like a cardboard sleeve. This is what people want from their podcast. Me describing something that they can't physically see. But Jameson, why do you have this DVD of Kung Fu Chefs? How did this end up in your possession?
God damn, I have to rack my brain. I believe it was a Secret Santa gift that I was given from maybe my friend D, like, 'cause she just knew that I liked weird movies, and she said, like, here's one for you, Jameson. Like, oh, great, thanks, can't wait to watch it. And something like, 12 years later, we just unwrapped it from the shrink wrap and decided to plug it into the DVD player, and yeah, it was region locked.
Yes.
So we had to find a YouTube version of it.
Yeah, so we did end up watching the movie, but not the movie that you got in the Secret Santa gift, which is essentially, I guess, garbage now? Or are you gonna re-gift it?
I gotta find some sucker or someone who doesn't have like a region-locked DVD player to take this off my hands. But yeah, this was just sitting on my DVD shelf for years. I cannot watch it, as it turns out. So yes, this is a unfortunately a bit of a wash as far as gifts go. I'm just surprised that like I had this around forever, and you know, I was just like going through my closet and like there it was. I kind of want to just like find like some hole in the wall in someone else's apartment and tuck it in there, so now it is like a passed on object.
Well, now my question is, now that we've watched the movie and seen the movie, do you still consider it a wash, or are you gonna, is this gonna be like prominently displayed in your apartment? Because it's a good looking DVD cover. It's kind of half. Now the easiest way I can describe this, the only other thing that this brings to memory, quite different movies, but it's very reminiscent of Rat Race. Would you agree? Do you remember the poster for that?
Yeah, where everyone had enlarged heads and tiny bodies, goofy expressions on their face. Yeah,
the bodies are animated, but the heads are just the actors' headshots. They don't even look like they're posing for the movie poster. It looks like a jib jab. It looks like they're all gonna start dancing. Wish me a Merry Christmas.
Yeah, it does call to mind like the old Animal House poster, or like some like hand drawn thing where it'll have depictions of people in the movie.
Right,
doing
but they didn't bother
things.
to draw the faces. They just took someone's Facebook profile picture and slapped it on there.
Their headshots, yeah.
But it's wicked charming, and I really enjoy the case, and I also really enjoyed this movie quite a bit.
It has a lot of charm to it, as a matter of fact. Yeah, so this was a good call, and at the end of the day, D, you did good. Thank you for this gift.
So, as we've mentioned before, we have, this is the third year of this podcast, and every year that we've been doing this so far, not necessarily by purpose, but it does seem like we like to do one wacky Eastern movie. Last year we did Fantasy Mission Force with Jackie Chan, and before that we did Master Q 2001, and this year it's Kung Fu Chefs, which is directed by Wing King Yip, who is sometimes known as Ken Yip. He's an actor and stuntman. He's directed 4 other films: Kung Fu Fighter, The Haunting Lover, Unbeatable Youth, and Operation Bangkok. And he's contributed stunt work for films that include such lofty Hollywood titles as The Musketeer, Half Past Dead, and Fear.com. So only the best Hollywood movies for this guy.
Hey, I mean, a lot of those titles are better than that fucking Taekwondo doorman shit that you're doing earlier.
I just need to cast the right person, and it's all gonna fall into place. I'm thinking RZA. For some reason, I feel like I can get him attached. But anyway.
That really is like a star-making vehicle.
Yes. He's just waiting, and he loves Kung Fu. Maybe I can't get RZA. Maybe I can get one of the lesser-known Wu-Tang Clan members. Maybe Taekwondo Doorman is a good platform for Inspector Deck. But I don't know. I'll workshop it.
Before we do a lot of legwork on Taekwondo Doorman, why don't we talk about the people that are actually in this movie cast?
Alright, well, there's only really one person that I was remotely familiar with in this movie beforehand, and that, of course, is the Kung Fu chef himself, the great Sammo Hung, actor, martial artist, director, producer, fight choreographer, and this is really interesting. I don't know if you knew this, James.
Probably not.
But according to his Wikipedia page, he is one of the founders of the I'm going to mispronounce this like crazy, the Jiangxi genre.
Okay.
Which, if you remember from Fantasy Mission Force, the Jiangxi is that sort of hopping zombie vampire.
Yes,
with the
yes.
robes and everything.
Yes, yes.
And apparently, according to Wikipedia, citing my sources here, Sammo Hung was one of the very first people to sort of start that genre with his 1980 film Encounters of the Spooky Kind.
Oh, I got chills already.
An objectively great title there. So, on top of being a famous actor and a producer and a martial artist, he's also kind of George A. Romero in the sense that he created an entire genre that sort of birthed a specific well, he didn't birth the monster, because that's like an ancient Chinese folklore
that existed
type thing, but he kind of brought it into like
the mainstream,
the mainstream consciousness, and it's still going today too.
Fascinating.
Yes. So Western audiences, of course, probably know him best from two things. First is the director of the classic Jackie Chan film Mr. Nice Guy, which is also about a kung fu chef.
Yes, yes.
And also as the lead of the late 90s cop show Martial Law, which ran for 2 seasons and cast Sammo Hung as a mostly silent Chinese cop in America, and co-starred Kelly Hu and Arsenio Hall.
Oh, interesting.
Yes, that's definitely something I've heard of. I've never seen. But yeah, and I think my own non-expert take on Sammo Hung, I think in my head, before this afternoon, when I looked him up on Wikipedia, I sort of collated him in my mind as one of the people that kind of became a little more well-known in North America thanks to the intervention of Quentin Tarantino. But I believe I was getting him confused with Sonny Chiba. Different region of film actor entirely. But he's a contemporary of Jackie Chan, and he's been in an absurd number of movies. And after watching this movie, I really need to seek out more Sammo Hung movies, because if there's one main thing that I took away from my recent disappointing watch of the Marvel film Black Widow, is that I like seeing fat people kick a bunch of ass, which is the best part of that movie. And Sammo Hung is a corpulent gentleman, but he moves like flowing water. He is fun to watch.
I had to ask, like, is he in a fat suit for most of that movie? Or most of this movie?
I think that's all Hung, baby.
And if that's the fucking case, like, good for him, because he is exciting to watch. And it's been a damn long time since I've actually sat down and watched a decent kung fu movie. And my God, like, I think maybe I just have been watching too many Western action movies where there are too many quick cuts and, like, you know, long takes
CGI,
and CGI stuff. It's fun to go back to see, like, well choreographed stunt fighters do what they do best. You know, they're swinging off of shit. They're, like, making these impossible leaps. Like, it's a fun romp.
And there's goofy stuff in this. Like, it's not, like, realistic or whatever. But
it's called Kung Fu Chefs. Of course there's going to be goofy shit in this.
But you're absolutely right. You hit the nail on the head. It's shot in a way that you can understand what the fight choreography is. You can see what's going on. You're never confused with who's attacking who.
True. I mean, you're confused exactly why they're fighting most of the times, or how things, like, escalated to this point. But yes, you can actually follow the action at any given point.
Yeah, outside of the other actors, I'm not terribly familiar with anyone. I know, obviously, in China and Hong Kong and overseas, there are probably big stars. I did glance them on Wikipedia. 1 or 2 of them are, in addition to being actors, they're also J-pop stars and K-pop stars, of course, which I think that's actually quite common in that type of media. I think a lot of actors just have singing careers on top of them, and it's a little less weird in the East as it is over here. Like, we really like to compartmentalize our singers and our actors, and sometimes if a singer is a really good actor, it's like, can you believe it? A singer who can act? But like over there, it's just like, yeah, most of them can sing.
Yeah,
they're like trained to do that.
Yeah, they're in show business.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, I do appreciate you taking the reins on doing the research for this movie, because
that's it. That's all. That's the research done. Book closed.
I rescind my compliment. No, I was gonna say, like, I'm on vacation from work right now, so I did not want to fucking work, and we just decided less than 24 hours ago that we were gonna watch this.
Because it was a good title.
There we go.
It was a good title, and because it is about food, we're going to talk about Kung Fu Chefs, obviously, but I also wanted to get this conversation started just talking about the concept of food films. Because there aren't a ton of them. But the ones that I remember are pretty distinct, and they're all pretty different, really, when you boil them down. Recently, this is kind of like jumping ahead from the way we normally do things. My original plan was to talk about this movie at the end of the episode when we recommend a good movie that we've recently seen that we recommend. But it ties in really thematically interesting to what we're talking about here. I want to briefly talk about a movie that I saw recently that I think is maybe my favorite film of 2021. I saw it with past guests, and friends of the podcast, Stephen Beaver and Leslie Dos Remedios, and it is a movie called Pig.
Oh, the new Nicolas Cage movie.
Yes, the Nicolas Cage movie where he is he was once a great master chef, but tragedy befell him, and so he moved to a cabin in the woods with his truffle pig, and he digs up truffles and he sells them to the city and he makes his meager living, and then one night some rednecks break in and they steal his pig. You gotta get his pig back. And the movie tricks you into thinking that it's gonna be
Taken.
Taken or John Wick specifically, but with a pig instead of a dog, and it's going to be a rip-roaring revenge thriller, and it's not that at all, because instead of going around and beating people up, Nicolas Cage just goes and talks to them. And after he talks to them for 2 minutes, they are devastated shells of what they once were. It's like, my God. It doesn't matter who it is. He talks to them for 2 minutes, and then they go, I have to rethink my entire life and the choices that brought me here. And
just like a real conversation with Nicolas Cage.
Pretty much, yeah. That was part of the casting, yeah. But it was interesting, and it made me think while I was watching it, the other big food movies. And I don't want to spoil Pig, because Pig is a truly phenomenal movie, and I highly recommend everyone see that. I kind of want to see it again.
Sure.
But without really giving it away, I'll talk sort of in like broad terms here. What really made me laugh is that there are so few movies about food and about the art of cooking. What made me laugh about Pig is that the ending of Pig is incredibly similar to the ending of Ratatouille. They're a little different, but like ultimately it kind of comes down to he has to impress someone with cooking, and then the person takes like one bite, and then they have to like immediately reckon with their past and their past choices, and then they're a completely different person.
I love the ending to Ratatouille.
It's great. It's one of the top Pixar movies. And of course there's that joke in The 5-Year Engagement where Jason Segel plays a chef, and he goes to a party where he doesn't know anyone, and everyone says, like, what do you do? I'm a chef. Oh, have you seen Ratatouille? And that happens to him over the course of the evening, and I'm sure chefs must get that all the time. Ratatouille really is one of the best cooking movies. It is kind of amazing how they've sort of escalated that. I don't know, what about you? Can you think of any food-based movies?
Wasn't Chef about that? I think that's more of like the collaborative experience, and I think that was like the main takeaway from that for me was Jon Favreau, who had just directed those 2 Iron Man movies, which like once Disney had like the massive oversight of the Marvel properties, says you cannot deviate from our formula. He went off and did like this quaint little indie comedy about family and expression.
Specifically, Chef is a movie about Jon Favreau making Iron Man 2.
Do you want my insight or not?
No, I'm adding your insight to the other insight.
Right, okay.
But that is a movie that makes you feel... I went to see Chef in the theaters when it came out, and I saw it at International Village in Vancouver. The reason I mention where that theater was is that if you know Vancouver, you know that a few blocks over from International Village, a restaurant called Meat and Bread.
Yes.
And as soon as that movie was over, I'm all like, I need a fucking sandwich right goddamn now. Because all that movie is people eating sandwiches.
Well, you can't go wrong with Meat and Bread. Meat and Bread, courtesy of...
They're not a sponsor, we're just a fan.
Yeah, exactly.
Please sponsor us.
Please sponsor us. I'll do it for fucking free. I love this
I'll do it for meat.
But like one thing that I think is touching on all these cooking movies and that kind of segues into Kung Fu Chefs, at least in the moments where they are talking about cooking, this is probably like some lost in translation stuff for us Westerners here, but they really want to infuse like there is meaning behind everything that we prepare and like how things are would come together in a dish for the customers. That's what I took away from this. Everything that isn't involving a fist fight, and actually they expand or espouse on the value of cooking and of the perfect ingredients and why all these things come together in this glorious harmony for everyone, for you, for me, for your family, for your community, for everybody.
It reminded me of yet another movie. I know we're kind of like front loading this with talking about other movies before we end up talking about...
Well, because we have no guest.
we have no guest, and we can't say much about the actors or the filmmaker outside of what we've already said. So yeah, we do have to kind of like fill this up a little bit. But the movie that this reminded me the most of is a movie that I rewatched quite recently when I was going through the entire filmography of Ang Lee. His third movie is a film called Eat, Drink, Man, Woman, and it's another fantastic film specifically about this style of cooking.
Is it not like the sequel to Eat, Pray, Love?
Well, that would be the sequel to Eat, Drink, Man, Woman, because that came out quite after. It's dropped the man and the woman, but it added the pray.
Okay.
And the love.
This is my way of saying no, I haven't seen the movie.
Great. So,
if you can't tell.
Eat, Drink, Man, Woman is a story about an old chef who has 3 daughters. He's lost his sense of taste, and all of his 3 daughters are like different archetypes, but they all live in like busy lives. But every Sunday they come home for family dinner, and for some reason there's like a switch inside the guy, the chef, that he can't turn off, and he still every Sunday cooks these incredibly elaborate 10-course meals for 4 people. And it did a thing that really bothers me when I watch it in movies, that unfortunately this movie did quite a bit too. It cooks delicious food that no one eats.
Yeah.
Or like, I guess in the case of this movie, people take like a couple of bites of it, and then it's the same problem I have with like reality cooking shows, because I love MasterChef Canada. It's one of my guiltiest pleasures. I will gobble that up, like no pun intended. But the thing that always bothers me about that took you a second.
I'm just thinking, like, how many no pun intended are we gonna have for this?
All of them.
Do we want to have like a counter like the bottom?
But the thing that always bothers me about those shows is that they make like the full dishes, and the chefs come and they take like a thing, and then the camera never shows us what happens to the food.
Right.
It always makes me think that like some PA is just dumping it in the garbage, but it's just like, I hope someone is like Tupperwaring it up, which is what happens in Eat, Drink, Man, Woman. They have like this big elaborate meal. Everyone barely eats anything. The dad has to like go to like save someone at a restaurant, has to go save like a service that's failing, and then the sisters just put all of the food in Tupperware containers and like divvy it up. And it just makes me think, is this every Sunday for them?
I would hope that like they give the food to the crew.
This is the thing about like MasterChef and these other like reality cooking shows. Over the credits show everyone finishing the food.
Yeah.
Because that's just like a thing. It's just like food waste is a real problem. Like the majority of like the perfectly good food never finds its way to people's houses. It never leaves the store. It goes straight into the dumpster, and it's entirely edible.
Yeah. Well, I think most of those Cooking Network shows end that way, don't they? Like they spend like the entire episode, I gotta plan a party, and here's how I make, Dad's famous, barbecue, whatever the crap. And they prep the food, they make the food for like the full half hour of the show, and then over the credits, these actors who are paid to play to their friends and family show up and they eat the food. So like, oh, that's, they're not liars. They actually do have to feed a bunch of people.
I guess it's the whole double-edged sword thing with all of these cooking reality shows, where it's like everyone loves to watch cooking. No one enjoys watching eating.
Yes.
Eating is gross.
Yes.
You don't want to watch other people eat.
Oh,
but it's kind of you'd like to know that the dish was finished at the very least.
We're bringing up cooking reality shows for a reason. Like, the good, last chunk of this movie incorporates a cooking show, or a cooking competition.
It's basically Iron Chef.
Basically,
down to the production design and everything. There's a big old cage in the middle of the room.
Yeah.
That's the end of the movie. Perhaps we should get into the plot of Kung Fu Chefs. Before we do that, though, this is something that we've never done on the show that I've always wanted to try. We always find a clever way around editing around it, but since it's just you and I here, perhaps before we talk about Kung Fu Chefs, we should take a break
and throw to a charity spot
and have you listen to the charity that we're supporting this week, and we'll be right back to talk about Kung Fu Chefs after this.
Holy shit, are we organized? Oh fuck, I shouldn't have spoken. There goes our nice segue. Fuck.
Hey everyone, it's Kaz here with this week's charity shoutout, and this week I've been thinking a lot about homophobia, and in particular the recent comments made by rapper DaBaby, who in a recent concert told the people in the crowd to shine their cell phone flashlights if they, quote, didn't show up today with HIV/AIDS, any of them deadly sexual transmitted diseases that will make you die in 2 to 3 weeks. And that's just made me really angry and upset because, speaking personally, I really love hip-hop and rap, and I want to try and stay as current as possible with who's new and who everyone is following and what their voice is trying to say within that bigger community and the messages that they're trying to get across in their music. But when incidents like this happen, it just reminds me that as much as I love hip-hop, there is a big contingent of the hip-hop community that doesn't love me back. And there clearly is a lot of education that still has to happen, not just with this community, but with the world. There's just like such a widespread community that feels statements and attacks like this are acceptable. So this week, I want to spotlight a charity that helps spread information about the LGBTQ community. So this week, I want to give a shout out to PFLAG Canada. They are Canada's only national organization that helps all Canadians with issues of sexual orientation, gender identity, and or expression. PFLAG Canada is a national voice that speaks for a more accepting Canadian society by providing support, education, and resources on issues of sexual orientation and gender identity. Through the PFLAG Canada chapter and contact network, they actively assist in the recognition and growth of gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender, transsexual, two-spirit, intersex, queer, and questioning persons and their families and friends within their diverse cultures and society. PFLAG Canada is a registered charitable organization that provides support, education, and resources to parents, families, and individuals who have questions or concerns about sexual orientation or gender identity. If you would like to make a donation to PFLAG Canada, visit pflagcanada.ca and donate some money to an organization that is trying to tell people who we are and that we deserve your respect. Damn it. Yeah. That's what's on my mind this week. Back to the episode.
And we're back.
Are we? Oh yes, we're back.
We're back. Okay, so the nice thing about the Wikipedia page for Kung Fu Chefs is that in addition to the cast and the role that they play, there's also a description of who they are.
Oh, thank God.
So it's like they knew that we were doing this particular movie. Frankly, I wish Wikipedia would have this for every movie that they do on here. Because sometimes you just look it up and it's like, David Harbour played Bob. It's like, fuck, I don't remember. I know David Harbour. I'm thinking of David Harbour because I'm still thinking of Black Widow.
I didn't catch too many of the names or the character names in this movie. I wrote down like fat old chef and skinny young chef and evil chef.
Girl, younger girl.
Yeah, rival chef.
There we go. That's the plot of the movie.
Evil nephew.
So Sammo Hung is the titular Kung Fu chef. He is Chef Wong Ping Yi, or as he prefers to be known, Ai, which is fun to hear people say, particularly in Kung Fu fighting scenes, because it just sounds like they're going, Ai?
Yeah, whenever a woman is in distress and she's like, Ai!
I remember what that was reminding me of. It wasn't a video game. It's a car commercial from years ago where, like, they go to, like, Louisiana, and the guy's all like, hey, come on down to the bayou, we're driving the master around, come on, say aye, come on, say aye, aye, do you remember that?
I do remember.
Good, I'm not going crazy.
I remember it now, thanks, Kat. Jeez, I thought I
that was what I was fucking thinking of. Anyway,
I wanted to block that one out. You're a pal, Cass.
Well, the joke's on me because now I have to see if I can scour YouTube and try and find that commercial. Even though don't remember what car it was, don't remember like the year of it or anything like that. It's gonna be. I actually am probably gonna find it really easy though.
Yeah. What if like they don't say IE in the commercial? They say something completely different.
Well, you'll find out right about now.
Hello now. What y'all doing? Try it, honey. The Kia Sportage. It'll get your mojo going.
So, Kung Fu chef, Wong Ping Yi. We see him hanging out with a little kid. He makes him an Ultraman out of a radish.
Yep.
Or papaya, perhaps.
Yep.
There's a lot of, like, fine little... You know, it's like the art of cutting food into shapes. I'm sure there's, like, a name for that, right?
Like food sculpture?
I think it is just called food sculpture.
Yeah. I'll just pull that one out of my ass.
Yeah.
If there's not a better term for it, then I'm blaming the rest of humanity for that.
Well, I don't know. You know, like a plate of meat is called charcuterie, and it's just like it's just a plate of meat.
Let's not gussy it up anymore.
But it's
than it
called
has to be.
fucking fruit sculpting. Sure, why not? So he's the Kung Fu chef.
Yeah.
And he's cooking a big banquet dinner.
Mm-hmm.
And he can smell that the pork is overcooked. He's left his pork with an assistant chef.
Yeah.
And he comes in and
he's the master chef. He's like the greatest cook that has ever walked the face of the earth. He wields the mystical dragon cleaver or whatever the fuck that thing is called, which is bestowed by something passed down. He is like the fifth descendant of the dragon blade, and it is such a magnificent blade. It can skin an entire pig in one fell swoop.
Yeah.
It is kind of cool looking.
It's kind of cool. It's the one sort of rare moment where we kind of go into some hilarious yet entirely wonky CGI, because we see like a knife POV shot from inside the pig, and it's like pink blood and CGI bubbles going around. It's very unnecessary, but I appreciated that it was there.
It is so superfluous. Like, there's no need for us to get that. And, like, they cap it off with, just like whatever kind of, like, meat juice is left on that blade are absorbed into the dragon's mouth.
Oh, yeah, and
because there's, like, some mysticism going on.
It goes upwards.
Yeah.
Like, the drops start going upwards, and before we can start thinking about that too hard, what that means, we're immediately on to, like, the next thing, and it's mostly forgotten about.
Yeah.
He maybe has a magic knife.
Yes.
That's kind of all we know.
Mm-hmm.
But we only ever see it do, like, magic, like, one time.
Yeah, but I think that's part of visual storytelling, with the director saying, just to help things along a little, let's have like some vague mysticism. Like there are moments where like we're seeing through like the bodies, like the carcasses of animals, to see their musculature and their bones and everything.
We got like a Mortal Kombat X-ray view, but it's like a duck. And someone's like, because they say earlier, there's lots of like cooking school technique stuff in this and everything like that. And sometime later, don't cut the duck with a knife. You have to smoosh it with your hands like a kung fu master.
I swear, like in certain events, you could probably learn a thing or two about cooking.
There's legitimately like actual advice in this.
Not everything they say is good advice, though. I can't imagine you want to crush a duck with your bare hands.
Who knows?
A raw duck?
Maybe it's good.
Oh,
well,
all right.
You wash your hands before and after.
Fair enough.
Clearly.
Anyways, this banquet is sabotaged by his nephew when he puts in too much salt, and everyone just has like a violently sick reaction.
I don't think it was salt. I think it was literal poison, because everyone clutches their stomachs and they fall over, and people grab tablecloths, and all of the dishes go clattering to the ground. Like it and people are accusing the Kung Fu chef, which is just what I'm going to call him from now on.
Yeah, let's be honest here.
They're accusing Kung Fu chef of poisoning the people, and so a big Kung Fu fight breaks out.
A great Kung Fu fight.
A great opening Kung Fu fight.
Considering everyone who he's fighting against has food poisoning, they're holding their own against the Kung Fu chef.
It's the waitstaff that he's fighting. It's the waitstaff and the other chefs and the other waiters, because they now think the Kung Fu chef has betrayed them.
Right.
And so it's them against him. And he stops short of seriously injuring someone, and he's stopped by like a dude who's been just like smoking a pipe that entire time.
Like some monk.
Yeah,
some random ass monk shows up.
Some unnamed monk
who's never again in the movie, just stops the fight.
There's a couple characters like that.
Yeah.
There's a couple of old man characters that the camera really lingers on and then never explains why they're important. We'll get to that.
Yeah. So he strips him of the dragon blade. He says, someone else is going to take over your restaurant for a while. His nephew's going to take over the restaurant for a while. Specifically says, he'll take over for a while. Not like, you'll never cook here again. It's just like, all right, you're in a timeout for now.
So this was like his restaurant, which looks like a massive banquet hall.
Yeah, or a temple.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was interesting. It wasn't like just like a regular sit-down restaurant. There was something like really kind of grandiose about it or whatnot. It was like a castle. It was like he was getting banished from the land.
Yeah. Like this movie should have taken place in ancient China.
Because it was also after he gets fired, it cuts to another CGI shot of him in like successive jail cells.
His mind prison.
It's his mind prison. It's Sherlock Holmes' mind prison.
Exactly.
Which then leads into a pretty kick-ass opening credits scene where Sammo Hung's just chop-socking the ear. I guess I shouldn't say chop-socky. I don't know. This is we'll start a tally of like things Cass says in this episode that are probably racist. Start the tally.
Oh, okay. Ding. 1. Chop-socky.
Chop-socky.
Jesus Christ. So we're introduced to Kimichi, who is like this wily trickster student at the martial arts / culinary academy.
Yeah, the first opening scene, you would lead nothing to believe that this was a culinary school whatsoever. It seems like he's just in
a dojo,
a kung fu temple. Well, there's a principal there,
right?
And the principal does this thing. He does like the Mulan thing, where it's like try and get this flag and put it over here, and everyone fights. And Kenichi does some trickery. And this is like a fairly long scene that goes on for a while.
Yeah,
and it led us to believe that he's a trickster. He tricked the principal. And then it cuts to the next scene, and it's in a kitchen.
Yes.
And I'm like, okay, so this is like the chef of the school or whatnot. But then Kenichi comes in and he starts making noodles. And just kind of through context, through the end of this scene, we're led to believe this is like a culinary / kung fu academy. It's like it's a school that makes kung fu chefs.
Not only that, like his weaponry in the fight is like the food that he's making. He has like the noodle bread that he's like fashioning into like those
really impressive.
into like one of those like rope knot weapons that I don't know the name of, but like he finishes the entire fight in the process of like making noodles for his principal.
Noodles for the principal, who's getting successively madder and madder in a real Dean from Animal House sort of way. Like, oh, Kenichi! And then he gives him the noodles. He's all like, everything's fine. I was wrong about you. There's a great little moment where the principal is fighting him and he has like a broomstick, and Kenichi has like the pasta dough, and the broomstick goes like right into the pasta dough, but it doesn't break. It just stretches and bends and folds over the
way that he wanted to.
Yeah, really cool.
Which
really
is
cool.
like, I guess he's like, that's how he's gonna have to do it whenever he's like working in the kitchen now.
He was teaching him even then.
Yes. So I think we're just led to believe that Kenichi is like, he has a lot of raw talent as a chef, but he's very undisciplined, and that's like his path. He has to learn humility and how to do things the proper way.
One might say he lacks discipline. That was almost a counter, but I said lacks. So it's not racist.
You could also said lox, because this is not a bread joke.
Lox is smoked salmon.
Fuck! Alright, moving on.
Put it on bagels. I get where you were going with that, though. I do. Yeah, so Kenichi... What's his name? Ken Ishii is this character's name. So he goes to a restaurant, the same restaurant that the Kung Fu chef ends up going to. They show up at practically the same time.
Yeah.
And they have, like,
how serendipitous.
Different trials.
Yes.
So he shows up.
So this restaurant is run by a woman who apparently has like the nose of a bloodhound, who can like sniff out like what is like the proper ingredients for any soup. She knows everything there is to know about like making amazing dishes. And she has two friends who work with her annoying little sister and another chef that I don't think is really given a name.
The owner of the restaurant, her name is Shum Ching. Her little sister is Shum Ying. The other guy, I don't know who that is. He's just like a cook or whatnot. Yeah, and she's trying to... There's like this scene where they're trying to like perfect their soup, and she's only smelling it. She's got like a blindfold on. And then she says it's too medicinal.
Yeah.
And then like this, look, as has happened before in the past, there's some jokes here that I just don't think translates terribly well.
No, I don't.
Like a couple of moments where it's just all like, I don't really know why they spend a lot of time talking about this black soup. That's medicinal. So moving on anyway, but this introduces these characters.
Kung Fu chef shows up there, not necessarily asking for a job, but just asking for, what's your signature dish?
He doesn't ask for anything. He's just a customer at this point.
Yeah.
No one knows he's the Kung Fu chef yet.
Yeah, so he has like one bite of the food. He asks to see the chef at the restaurant. He challenges him right there and then.
Well, and he's very polite. He's a very honorable man because he asks for the chef. He takes one bite of this soup. We're gonna go back to this soup. But he takes one bite of this soup and then he asks for his bill. And he's not shitty about it. He just says it's fine. It's fine. You did the basics of it. It's fine. It's just not wowing me.
Yeah.
And so the chef of this restaurant and him enter into a cooking competition once he reveals himself to be the legendary Kung Fu chef.
That's right.
And they make duck, which is the only time. There's lots of cooking competitions in this movie. This is the only time there's a competition where the two people make the same thing, which I would argue is what a competition
ought to be. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure. And so he beats the head chef who walks out. Well, he doesn't really walk out. He admits defeat. And he takes it in very good stride.
Because he's another honorable guy. He doesn't argue. He just like takes one bite. Again, he's made this delicious looking duck with like this crystallized sugar skin that's like continuing to cook the duck.
Yeah.
It is one of these movies that makes you hungry while you watch it.
Absolutely, yeah. And he decides to take on Kenichi as an apprentice when he correctly identifies that the soup has like river water and snakes in it or something.
Was that Kenichi or was that the Kung Fu chef?
I don't fucking remember. He takes on Kenichi as an apprentice.
Kenichi is also doing like a tasting thing in the next room, but that's like terribly unimportant. Yeah, and he kind of, because he kind of costs this restaurant its head chef, he's like, no, I'll step in and I'll be the head chef, but like, don't make a big fucking deal out of it. I know I'm the Kung Fu chef. You don't need to go around telling people I'm the Kung Fu chef.
I know you're good enough that you can like fillet a fish and it's still alive and you can put it back in the tank.
Okay.
You're that good.
That's maybe the first truly insane thing that happens in this. Because again, Kenichi is all like, I'm the cock of the walk. I want to show the
walk. That's another.
Also cock, because that's a chicken. I don't know. Yours is better. Dang.
My cock?
Whoa,
Moving on.
I swear to God, can we get through one episode where we don't whip our dicks out at each other? It's fucking. I mean, I always edited that stuff out, but it's happened in every episode so far. We need to
pulling the curtains back on you, people.
Pulling something back. So so they get into like a dick measuring contest, and they're like, I gotta get off this. I gotta get off this dick.
That's what she said.
Yeah, and they do like a sushi cutting competition, and Kenichi picks like a spiky barbed fish that's like hard to work with, and he does a really good job, and it tastes really good. And Kung Fu Chef takes a brill, which is like the standard like whatever fish, and not only does he make the meat of the fish, this common fish, taste like heaven. In particular, the older sister says a line,
"The cold brim gives my mouth a feeling of rebirth. This is the best taste ever."
Oh God, the picture-in-picture of both her and Kenichi like enjoying the fish at the same time. I'll have what she's having.
So, but we find out that not only has he sliced this fish so thin it like melts in your mouth, he sliced it so thin the fish is still alive and he's put it back in the tank, which I'm sorry, Kung Fu Chef, no. You can't. First, impossible. Second, huge health violation.
Massive health violation.
It's just like he puts it back in like the tank, and then all the other fish just swarm it and start eating it because it's bleeding to death.
I'm sure they also frown on like open kung fu matches breaking out in kitchen.
They're a little more lax about that.
Right.
That was for people who don't know. I spent about 2 decades working in kitchens, so I can attest to some of the things. I will say one of the big problems, not necessarily kung fu fights, but you'll be in the middle of like a busy service, and then 2 guys will like run in through the back door and they'll just start fighting in the kitchen. They'll grab their pots and pans and everything.
Oh, it's a contentious environment, I imagine.
The thing that movies get wrong is that the chefs always flee. You can't flee. It's a contentious service. You gotta get those appetizers out.
So the chef who leaves that one restaurant, he goes to work for the nephew, who is now this like fucking Scarface-esque gangster.
Little gangster bitch.
Yeah.
But he's the owner of a restaurant.
Of a very busy and popular looking restaurant.
Very busy.
Considering that looks like there's like fucking 20 head chefs that work there.
They never go into whether or not he's like a crime lord. He's just a restaurant owner that has lots of thugs.
He certainly acts like he's a fucking crime lord. The way he like lounges around on his thrones. He's always got like a lit cigarette in his mouth when he's like sitting.
A cigar, I think.
Cigar, yes, as he's like lounging in his limo. There's like one scene where he's like having an awesome like he's tripping out on something, because like his main thing is that when that other chef says to him, I lost a cooking competition to the Kung Fu Chef, he was like, the Kung Fu Chef was my uncle and he wouldn't let my father take the mantle of
we see a flashback,
and
Kung Fu Chef and his brother Kung Fu Jeff got into a fight, which is that character's name now.
I think it's Joe, isn't it?
I think the nephew is Joe.
Oh, okay.
I think the brother is someone else.
Okay.
But he's Kung Fu
Wait,
Jeff.
did we find out that they have the same name? There's Joe and Joe Jr.?
Joe Big. The brother's name is Wong Ping Kai, and the nephew is Wong Kai Joe. So Where did you come from?
Where did you go?
Where did you come from, Wong Kai Joe? That's a ding. That's a ding right there. But it's not a racist joke towards China. It's a racist joke towards the band
Rednecks.
Yes.
Which in themselves,
which is a race entirely of
which
themselves.
is an offensive term on its own. Anyway.
They're European.
Are they really?
Yeah, they're like a Euro.
Doesn't that just make
they're
it
like
better?
a Euro trash band. They're not actual rednecks.
Yeah.
But we see in the flashback that the brother got drunk and wanted the knife. And they had a big fight that resulted in something big and heavy landing on his arm, and I guess it ruined his cooking arm. And
now the nephew wants revenge.
And Kanai Joe wants revenge, and he wants... Jesus Christ. All right, so where were we? So they were. God, what happens next? So, well, it's a cooking competition. The cooking competition. It's a fairly simple plot, actually.
Yeah. So there's this fucking fight in a convenience store. That is a great fucking fight in the convenience store.
Well, what sets that off is that a bunch of Joe's goons come to the restaurant.
Right,
and they try to do the thing where they get their meal comped, or they want to, like, insult the chef.
I found a nail in my food, and I'm normally a fan of nails in my food, but this is an undercooked nail. Doesn't he say something like that?
He says literally that, I believe.
I don't mind nails, but cooked right, not served raw.
Which at that point,
but it isn't just a nail. He puts like a handful of like drywall screws in the middle of the dish. Doesn't bother to he just like sprinkles it like it's a topper.
Yeah.
Like you gotta mix that shit in if you're running this scam.
Yeah, and I can get there's a fly in my soup, or this is undercooked. Like, of course we'll comp your meal, sir. When there's like an actual drywall meal, and you're making this whole elaborate, presentation about it, at that point you gotta be like, okay, sir, I think you better leave. I see what you're trying to do.
You could make the argument that this wasn't necessarily meant to be like an actual there's a nail in my soup thing. It was more just like a challenge. Like it's all like, Kung Fu chef, I don't respect you. I'll come into your restaurant. I put fucking nails in your food. I make you comp me for your meal. Fuck you, Kung Fu chef.
Right.
Which is pretty much what's happening here.
And then
they see them in the grocery store later.
And the little sister is like, oh, I can't believe they did that. I gotta do something about this. And then she has a massive overreaction and does these amazing acrobatic attacks against them.
And then she has a massive overreaction is how you can describe that character in every scene that she's in.
Fuck, I hated that character.
The thing is that we watched the English dub of this because we had to watch this on YouTube because it was the PAL region, it was locked and everything. I bet if we watched it in the original Mandarin, she's probably cute as hell.
Sure.
Because she's a big cutie, she's an adorable actress, but through the dub, which I'm fairly certain was the same guy for every male character and the same woman for every male character. It sounded very... You need to get a different voice actor for the Kung Fu chef. He needs to sound different.
I gotta see what it takes to get into region dubbing for movies. It seems like they let anybody do it.
Yeah.
Basically
shit. Anyone who can string a sentence together, which means I'm out, unfortunately.
Yeah, fuck.
It is a funny scene where the thugs are just going around looking at fruit being general assholes, and she's just like, I need to do something. And then just completely unprovoked attacks them. And then again there's a big kung fu moment.
Yeah.
That really blew the fucking speakers
out.
And all these security guards start fighting, but then the security guards start destroying stuff. They pick up the sister and body slam into a thing of spices. It's security guards, save the convenience store. All right. Yeah, they continue to just destroy the shit out of the place that they're being paid not to do.
So because of that, this escalation has to end. I know, we'll settle this on Iron Chef.
Or
the equivalent
the equivalent of what this is. Yes, it is a cooking competition.
Yeah. Between Kenichi, the other no-name guy from the Good Guy restaurant.
The Good Guy restaurant! They said the name at some point, but yeah.
And the Bad Guy restaurant, which has the guy who left the first restaurant, but he's not the one, he's not the head chef in that competition.
No, he's the sous chef, so it's kind of an extra layer of insult to him. Even though he remains honorable and a good guy throughout it.
Yeah.
You actually think there's going to be a little bit more.
There's going to be
with that chef.
A rivalry.
He's just there.
Yeah.
And he gets there and he's just
no.
Hey chefs, how you doing?
Yeah, he concedes victory the first go around against the Kung Fu chef, and then he just so happens to be the sous chef in the competition, likely against his will.
Well, they're paying.
Just for the fun of it.
Him. They're employing
for
him.
the joy of cooking.
Yes. We might have been missing a scene at the end where Kung Fu chef hires him back or whatnot.
Yeah.
Because who knows how long Joe's All American Good Time Grill is gonna stay open.
Good American feed bag.
Yeah. For some reason, we're just making this character more and more of an American stereotype as this episode goes on. So Joe Mantegna has a plan. What else? There's lots of weird little scenes here. There's a scene where weird little standalone scenes that don't have much to do. There's a weird stomp-based scene where Kenichi is trying to learn the ropes and he's trying to get his cooking skills down. And there's this 5-minute dialogue-free scene where everyone's kind of doing this rhythm thing.
They're chopping at the same rhythm. There's someone mixing at the same rhythm. Someone's putting plates out at the same rhythm, and he's just out of step with everybody.
Yep, and then he starts chopping. Everyone's all oh, that's not it. And then he goes on and he cuts up a bunch of... He does like this really annoying thing where it's meant to be like the song or whatever, but there's 5 different stations with vegetables and different layers of choppedness, and he just kind of goes from one da 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 da, goes to the next one da 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 da, and as someone who's worked in multiple kitchens, it's just all like, dude, finish one task, finish one thing. It's more impressive if you cut all of it and then go to the next thing, because all you're doing is just and none of those things are julienned properly and everything like that. You're just going like you're not doing chef, you're not kung fuing the food.
At the very least, clean your knife between like whatever things you're chopping.
You're getting ginger all over the taro root. You're gonna, I mean, it tastes good. I don't. What else happens? There's like a weird thing where the younger sister is trying to figure out a sauce.
Yeah.
It's just like another moment where the kung fu chef, where she's trying to figure out a sauce.
Yeah, and he comes like, he expends like some, like he cracks some jive about like, oh, like
cracks some jive.
What is it like? What does he say? I wrote it down. Sauce is important, but everyone has different tastes. Like, no shit.
This scene really made me laugh, because for the most part, the movie does a really good job of explaining food and the honor behind food.
I mean,
and what it does for, like, emotions.
Half the dialogue are cooking instructions.
Yeah. This sauce scene is the one where it's just like, okay, we went too broad. Because she's just making sauce. They never once specify what kind of sauce. I know for a fact Chinese cooking has lots of different sauces.
Yeah.
Like a cascade of different sauces and flavors, so they're not just making Chinese sauce.
Right.
But that's all they ever say, and it's just like the sisters mixed up like a big thing, and the other sister's there, she's trying, it's all like, it's good, it tastes like your sauce always tastes. And then Kung Fu Chef's like, oh, what's this? You're making sauce? Oh, try a little of that, try a little of this. And like, he doesn't even mix it together, he just puts like a pinch of 2 things in there, and of course, it's the most amazing orgasmic fucking sauce that everyone's ever had. But it's just like, okay, we needed a little bit more specificity in this moment. And the movie was so good up until this point. Like, when he makes the scrambled eggs, he talks about the entire process of letting the eggs finish cook themselves. This is the one time it's just all like, oh, sauce, huh? There you go. It's all like, wow, Kung Fu Chef, you know your sauce. He's like, right, next scene.
Sauce is easy when you do it, when you're the fucking Kung Fu master.
What was the I know it's not attributed to the sauce, but what was the line he had? Is like, no, sauce is easy.
Life is hard.
Life is hard.
Yeah.
And you're like, whoa, Kung Fu Chef.
Okay, let's dial it back
this
here
is
a little
message
bit.
movie.
So the cooking competition ends with I guess it was like the semifinals.
The semifinals. So there's 5 restaurants.
Right, but only like the restaurants that we give a shit about make it to the finals.
So I guess we start with the semifinals.
I suppose, yeah.
Because we never saw. It is the structure of the cooking show is a little off.
Yeah, but I mean it's pretty consistent with like what we do know of cooking shows. Like there are like the panel of 5 judges, and they're all like, I assume, actual real master chefs playing themselves, and they're offering their 2 cents on...
There's a very flamboyant host with a fan that says soup on one side and purity on the other, which I really enjoyed.
Yeah, and the chefs all offer their hot takes like, oh, it's a wonderful ox head.
That's just like a standalone, like this isn't going to make any sense in context, but that's like another like standalone line that I really liked, where they're watching it and the sister is watching the rival team and she just points at the pot. She's all like,
Sister, look at Chef Tin over there. What's he doing with that ox head?
it's like, they're fucking cooking it. What are you talking about? It's a cooking competition. Why? What a question to ask.
Why are they wearing those funny hats? They're the chefs.
Oh, look out for the knives. No, it's, oh God, no.
Why are they turning the stove on?
They're gonna burn this whole building down.
It's
Fuck.
dangerous.
Oh God.
Well, like the little sister is such a little dummy that I would imagine she'd be saying shit like that. There's this one part where Kenichi's like he said like, oh, like to become a master I have to like master the art of discipline. I'm gonna spend all night like sharpening these knives for tomorrow. And then like the next time we see him, he's like asleep in a hammock. She comes by and she like whaps him on the head or throws a pepper at him or something. And she's like, what were you doing staying up all night? Everyone else is sleeping. What are you doing now? He's trying to sleep now.
Trying to sleep. He was up all night sharpening knives. It's actually fairly self-explanatory.
Mm-hmm.
So the good guy restaurant, which is what we're calling it, they essentially make a turducken.
Yeah.
But they add a 4th bird. They add like a quail.
A pigeon.
So it's like a full. It's like, is it a pigeon?
I think it's a pigeon.
It's like a pigeon inside of a duck inside of a. Well, it's not a turkey. They don't do a turkey.
It's
so
like a goose.
I think it's quail, pigeon, duck, chicken. I don't know. I'll go back. A Quijibo.
Quijibo. That's what it is. All these years later, we found out what it is.
Finally found out what a Kuchibo is.
Get Matt Grady on the horn.
Episode 2 of We See of The Simpsons.
We cracked the code.
We cracked the Kuchibo code, yeah. Yeah, so they make that, and it's really impressive, and yeah, the bad guy, of course, them and Cobra Kai fucking, like, move on to, like, the final round. It's almost like the other 3 restaurants are completely unnecessary.
Yeah, of course. But, for added insurance, Scarface shows up at the restaurant, and he,
Please, Jameson, Cotton Eye Joe.
Cotton Eye Joe. Cotton Eye Joe shows up to the restaurant, and
Cotton Eye Joe is actually closer to what his name is in the movie,
Yeah.
so technically I'm being more
right.
correct.
There's like 2 different fight scenes that kind of that start abruptly and end abruptly, almost as if like we lost scenes that like sort of have
Yes.
them confront the
We
people.
do start in the middle of a fight, which is a little odd, yes.
Yeah, and then like it cuts to Kenichi and the little sister trapped in the meat freezer together, having like this shared hallucination where they're falling in love or whatever, but they're really just dying of hypothermia.
At first, I thought they were having a shared hallucination. I think they were thinking of a memory from earlier. It's a little odd how that particular scene is edited together, just because the fight starts in the middle of the fight. We never see them go into the meat freezer. We also never see them get out. We see the Kung Fu chef rescue them, but we never see him open the door and let them out.
Right.
It's just like the next day, and it's all like, I guess they got out of there.
Yeah, perfect.
Obviously.
The Kung Fu chef, he's not in the cooking competition. At one point, he goes back to his old cooking martial arts temple because he has like a, what does he need? Like
I don't know. I don't know why he left. He goes back. At first, I thought he was going to see his brother because he goes to like this dojo where a bunch of people are practicing Tai Chi or I don't know, some sort of martial art. And he comes
or
in.
cooking.
Yeah, that's how. Yeah, this is how.
They're pretty interchangeable.
We're
in this
cracking
movie.
ghost eggs. We're moving it over here. And yeah, and everyone, and like a little boy's like, it's the Kung Fu chef, and like an old man's like,
Hi.
And then,
it's been a long time.
But then we
Kung
cut
Fu
away,
chef.
and to the best of my knowledge, we never see that old man again, and
No.
we don't really. And like the next time he comes back, the older sisters are like, "Did you enjoy your trip back to the village?" He's like, "Yes, it was very good." Oh, look, my nephew, and that's kind of all. That's all we ever get of that. So again. Kind of a scene that goes nowhere.
Yep.
So, yeah, the nephew comes back. He says, I've locked your guy and your sister in the meat freezer. Here's a key. Oops, I dropped it into this box of snakes I just have.
So if you want to say
bye.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily know what Kung Fu Chef was thinking in the time. I know if I was in that case, I'd just be all like, snakes. Snakes are not a big deal.
What if they're venomous?
They could be, but like, you can reach in and grab something and then, I mean, it turns out to be fake because it turns out it's like a ruse because one of his thugs, who I believe, according to Wikipedia, is Sammo Hung's actual son.
Okay.
Comes over and says, that's a fake key. Here's the real key. I'm sorry, Kung Fu Chef. I'm not going to work for your nephew anymore. Bye, I'm out of this movie.
Yeah, that was right in the same school of thinking of, you know that butler in Spider-Man 3? That, like, nameless guy who was in, like, you know, throughout the entire movie?
I'm sorry, I believe his name was Howard.
That guy. He sort of, like, reveals everything to James Franco. So, it was exactly like that.
Tell us more of the plot. I'm going to look up the name of the butler character in Spider-Man 3.
So, there's another big-ass fight sequence in the restaurant between the Kung Fu chef, the nephew, and his goons that just, like, completely destroys the entire storeroom of the restaurant, while everyone else who works in that restaurant is at the finals of the cooking competition where they need to make a soup, but with the added challenge of it being full of purity, which no one knows what the fuck means.
The character's name was Houseman, so I don't think that actually was his name.
Howard Houseman?
Houseman. I could have sworn his name was Bernard.
Well, then why'd you say Howard?
Because I guess I was thinking of Houseman. That's a title, though. He's not, he's the Houseman.
Mm-hmm. The man of the house. No, that was...
That's Harry.
No, that was Norman Osborn.
Well, but anyway.
Anyways.
We're getting off track here. We're going to come back to this. We're going to have our follow-up episode on the butler character from Spider-Man 3.
Will we?
Yes, we will.
So yeah, they have to make a soup of purity, which they don't know what the fuck means, but conveniently enough, the Kung Fu chef casually mentions to Kenichi that the most perfect soup in the world is cabbage soup.
Well, when he comes into the restaurant at the very first scene, that's what he orders. He orders cabbage and clear water soup. Now, as two ignorant white boys over here, we giggled when we heard that because it's kind of funny. Cabbage and clear water.
Yeah, I could fucking make that.
Yeah, any of us can make that.
And I'm not a Kung Fu chef.
And it comes out, and it is cabbage leaves looking in just like a clear broth. It seems like exactly it is. We see in this final cooking competition the process of making the soup. It is a chicken-based soup. It's really interesting. They do this thing where they essentially pulverize the chicken until it's like
So-
almost a paste.
Yeah, so like minced, and
Yeah.
to the point where like once you put it in the water and stir it, it dissolves.
It dissolves and then becomes clear.
Yeah.
And it's just more of a process of like the broth is foggy, but it's just kind of like a process of like ladling and taking all of the debris out and everything until you essentially get this clear broth. And there's other flavors obviously that you put into the soup. It is just kind of, and I do wonder if that's one of like those weird translation things watching the English dub. Maybe cabbage and clear water soup. Maybe it's a little more poetic than that.
They make it sound a lot more poetic.
Yes.
Because they mentioned that, like, you know, cabbage is a lot like family. You know, you never notice it right away, but if it's gone from your life, you feel it deep in your cojones or whatever the fuck they say.
And if you want a family, all you need to go is to go down to the Cabbage Patch and grab yourself a couple kids.
Indeed. So yeah, that's what Kenichi makes. It's amazing, and the fucking like all the chefs like just wolf it down.
Well, but you're forgetting kind of the bullshit part of this thing. So, Kung Fu Chef, while this has been happening, he's back at the restaurant fighting the nephew. Like, he destroys all of the goons, and then he goes one-on-one with the nephew, and they have, like, this final drag-out, knuckle-down fight. That's not the term, but whatever. And he defeats the nephew, and then he runs back to the cooking competition after the competition is over. He gets there after the rival team has already presented their soup. The judges have...
All right, time's up, chefs.
Rules on it. Yeah.
Time's up.
If you watch MasterChef, if you watch Chopped or anything, when the time is up, the hands are up, you can't put anything else on the dish. You will be disqualified.
You can't have, like, some ringer show up and say, like, oh, hey, by the way, use the fucking dragon blade and this one thing of tofu that I have,
It's like bean curd, and it's like Kenichi is about to go up and present the soup, but Kung Fu Chef comes in and says, wait, here's the dragon blade, because Joe brought the dragon blade and he like threw it at him. He's all like, haha, take it, and then he's all like, I will, and Joe's like, shit, I didn't think that through.
Can I just say, like, for that like final action set piece, weaving that, I know like the big joke for like most modern like reality cooking shows are like the quick zooms and the overly dramatic music and the unnecessary pauses, but I think like weaving that through like a final action fight sequence, like a kung fu action sequence, I was riveted.
Because this is a well-directed movie and I think it's really good. Spoiler alert. But he shows up, he gives the dragon blade, and Kenichi's all like, wait, I'm gonna have like one final, and he gives him the bean curd, and he slices up the bean curd and he puts it on top, and he like slices it so thin it dissolves into the soup magically, and there's like the one judge in the middle who looks to the left and looks to the right, and all of the judges are just in pure bliss. Is like the only way you can describe it.
I almost wish like they started like hovering.
Well, I mean, talking about movies about food only ending one way, it's the Anton Ego moment. Where they're having the thing and they're somewhere else. They're not in that room anymore. They're like 5 years old and they're having like soup in the village or whatnot, and that's what's going on. And
but the one chef in the middle, like, fuck, he should have been like a nastier kind of judge. He should have been like a Simon Cowell type.
Yeah, there should have been like one nasty one, I guess. But like you say, they might all be playing themselves, so they didn't have to like plan it up or anything.
Yeah, he was the only one of those people who could like memorize lines.
But yeah, I mean, obviously, Kung Fu Chef's team wins, even though it's so fucking obvious that they should have been disqualified, because you can't do that at that point. And also, it's kind of like kicking the nuts to Kenichi, because it's kind of like he might have been able to win on his own talents, but we'll never know, because the Kung Fu Chef came in and said, wait, add this one more thing. And it's like, in the end, he still did everything, but the Kung Fu Chef kind of helped him a little bit.
Yeah, so like, even though like he did learn he learned disciplinary and remembered everything that he was taught, he still didn't win on his own merits. He was still like a wily trickster who got by on luck.
It reminded me a little bit, I don't know if you saw Eurovision, the Netflix movie with Will Ferrell. It reminded me of the ending of that, where they do like this like switcheroo last minute like song switch thing, and like everyone's blown away, and the announcer's all like, and the crowd are loving it. They will, of course, be immediately disqualified, but the crowd is uproarious, and it's just like, yeah, competitions have rules, Kung Fu Chef.
You know what it reminded me? What ending it reminded me of? Aspen Extreme. Go out of bounds, and you still get 40 out of 30.
He's doing the fucking dumb. That was the thing. That the one chef in the middle should have held up. Well, Because they held up cards, but they're Chinese characters, so we don't know what they're saying. We can assume it was 40, though.
Yeah.
So they win. Joe has a temper tantrum because he's watching the TV and the TV shorts out. No! The brother comes back. He's just like Jake Blues for some reason.
Give me some loving. Yeah, that was great. And he reconciles with the Kung Fu chef, and then I guess we're led to believe that the Kung Fu chef and Kenichi are gonna go off to culinary school one more time together. Kenichi says goodbye to the little sister, who I don't see it.
We guess there's a romance there.
Yeah,
I mean, it's the whole opposites attract thing.
I would have thought
it's odd that they ended the movie on them.
Yeah, I would have assumed that when you have this slacker, cocky young chef who shows up to the restaurant, and there's a very buttoned down and serious woman who runs the restaurant, I would have thought they'd be the pairing. They'd be the romantic pairing.
Yeah, I mean, and as a result, the older sister kind of doesn't have much of a character.
Not really.
She gets most of the scenes with the Kung Fu chef, but Sammo Hung is so kind of reserved and honorable and everything. She can only really play off of that.
Yeah.
And so her character just becomes nice lady.
I don't know. Maybe it's just another lost in translation thing, but I think she had a thing for him.
Well, but not
for he was saving her business, I guess. But
I mean, also not every female. We should acknowledge not every female character has to have a romantic subplot.
Of course not. No.
But they by not giving her a romantic subplot, they also just didn't give her a subplot. Yeah.
She did have an awesome Rain Man moment.
Yeah, she's got a thing where Kenichi in the first test is like, what should I cook? And everyone's starting cooking, and it just cuts to inside of her head, and
in
it's
her
just
mind
a
palace.
bunch of just a bunch of lots of mind palaces in this movie, and a bunch of numbers go by, and then she says the turducken thing, which I wrote down is a dish called the 4 stuffed treasures, which is the classier way of saying turducken or quijibo. Sorry,
quijibo, as we discovered. Fuck, what else is there to talk about?
We're gonna wrap this episode up earlier than usual, which I'm sure you're all very thankful for.
No crazy Hong Kong comedy that we watch would be complete without some hilarious lost in translation lines. Or in our case, one really poor choice of dubbing. There was there was the sous chef of Kenichi who, when he's the competition is just about
to pump him up, trying to get him excited,
and he says, "Let's kick it up."
Let's kick it up.
Yeah. Well, it's the only time whoever's doing the dubbing is actively trying to make the mouth movements of the actors match the dubbing, even though it completely disregards that for the majority of the movie. Entire scenes are done with characters talking and no one is moving their mouth. You would think it's an inner monologue, but multiple characters are having multiple inner monologues at the same time to each other. Yeah, it's very odd.
Yeah, there's that one moment where, just as Kung Fu Chef is about to have, the original chef's food, they said, I'm going to challenge you, but they seem to be having this conversation telepathically.
Yeah. And it's just they're just walking down a hallway and they're having an Aaron Sorkin scene, but they're not. It's all just in their head. Mm-hmm. It's fucking telepaths.
Yeah, which is what I try to imagine whenever I'm walking next to someone in dead silence. We're having a riveting conversation.
I'm looking through my notes. I think we more or less covered everything.
Oh, what did he say were the different tastes that humans can taste? What flavors can humans taste? There was bitter, sweet, hot, salty, and bitter.
If I'm not mistaken, that was also the sauce scene.
Yes.
Where he's just coming in, is all here, let me fix this sauce. Human beings, we taste different things. Sometimes it's salty, sometimes it's sweet, sometimes it's bitter, and when you put all these tastes together, it makes the food experience, the cooking and everything. Anyway, try this sauce. Wow, I never thought about that before, Kung Fu Chef. It's a really good movie. It's a really smart screenplay. They have interesting things to say about food. It's just this one weird sauce scene where they forgot to add anything. It's just just talk about food. It's all we don't really know that. We're just kind of making it up.
Actually, it's easy to make sauce. Here. You just need a little patience. And some interest. And a little imagination as well. There are a few tastes. There's sweet, sour, bitter, hot, and salty. Just keep on trying your best. Mix them together with different ingredients. Then find out which one's the favorite of the guests, that's all.
Oh, wow, that's tasty, isn't it, Camloy?
It's sweet and salty. It tastes sweet, but also hot. How did you make it?
I sauce quite like this before.
That was a screenwriter who had like one post-it note saying like, make sure you fill out this one scene where he's talking about sauce.
Yeah.
And he like put it off because he just couldn't think of anything. He's like, I'll get around to it. I'm not worried about it. Like setting up the action scenes are what's important. You know, the character moments are what's important. And then like the deadline for having the screenplay final draft handed in was the next morning. He's like, shit. 4 different food groups in the sauce. Bam, you're good.
It was
Bam.
the one time.
That's another cooking reference.
That's another cooking reference. Bam. Yes.
Bam.
He's good, right? He never did anything bad, right? I need to keep like
Emerald?
Emerald. I need to keep like a list of chefs who are good and chefs who are not good. It's Batali. Batali is on the bad list. I'm trying to think if there are any others.
I'm trying to recall, did Emerald have a TV show? Did he have a sitcom?
That's what I was going to say. Emerald had multiple TV shows. He also had a sitcom where he played himself, and they forced him to act. I don't think it lasted terribly long. I'm going to look up how many episodes Emerald's TV show was in.
Because I'm tempted to say, you know, let's mark that in the lose column for Emerald.
Sure.
He didn't have a sitcom that lasted a full season.
Emerald. It lasted 11 episodes.
Oh.
And had Robert Urich in the cast.
Oh.
Oh, and Felicia Day.
Oh.
And Burt Reynolds as Burt Reynolds.
Oh. As a regular?
I don't know how many episodes he was in. He was probably in the pilot. Hey, Emerald, where's the bam? I ordered this pasta, and there was no bam in it. It's all like, oh, I'm sorry, Bert, hold on just a second here. And he went, bam, and then Bert's like, it's better. Don't forget it.
Is that your...
It's by Norm Macdonald.
Your Norm Macdonald
Norm
by
Macdonald,
way of Burt Reynolds by way of Turd Ferguson.
Jameson, would you recommend Kung Fu Chefs?
Yeah, I think so. I think the fight scenes especially are delightful. And I think like a good Kung Fu movie would live or die by like the cinematography and the action sequences. And I think in that respect, it works.
Yeah, definitely. The one thing I'll say about this is we were watching the movie and it had gone quite a long time without any Kung Fu. And I mentioned to you, you know what I could use right now? Some Kung Fu. And I'll say this for the movie. It definitely
It listened.
It listened to me because 2 scenes later, Kung Fu. And it's structured just like that, where it goes on for a while, and the moment you start thinking, I can go for some Kung Fu right now. There's some Kung Fu. It anticipates what you want, and it's good. It's...
In that respect, it's like Jaws. You know, it's been a while since we've seen a shark attack in this movie. Oh, there it is.
Yeah. And much like the shark in Jaws, it's not around much, and when it isn't around, you're thinking about what it's doing, and it breaks down constantly, and the sequels get less and less good. Actually, it's nothing like the shark in Jaws. Scrap that.
Fuck what I just said then. Jesus.
I'll edit this part out here too. It's like the shark in Jaws in exactly one way.
In exactly one movie. Do you recommend this movie?
Yeah, absolutely. It's on YouTube. You can look it up. There are different versions of it. The first one we started watching had an ad break every 2 minutes.
Yeah, don't watch that
one.
Don't watch that one. Make sure you have ad block when you watch that one.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, pay for the YouTube premium. Yeah, definitely check this out. This is fun. I want to check out some other Sammo Hung movies now because I love it when big fat guys murder a room full of people, and I think that's explicitly the movies that he makes. Might want to track down what was that movie called? Close Encounters of the Spooky Kind?
Ah, yes.
That's just a great fucking title. That's just fantastic.
Well, Halloween episodes are coming up.
Close Encounters of the Spooky Kind. You know what's a better title than that?
Nothing.
Taekwondo Man, baby!
Oh, shut up. We're back to that again, aren't we?
Jameson, what have you been watching recently that you want to recommend the people check out?
I've just been having, like, fucking old episodes of Frasier on in the background, so if people are into that, I'd check that out. I want to pump the tires of this YouTuber that I found named Noah Caldwell-Gervais. He does these really interesting deep dives on old, like, story-based RPG and action games. They're usually, like, 2 hours long, but they're, like, well thought out, and he is, like, a very eloquent speaker that he can make, like, even the most boring subject matter interesting. And they're just delightful little things to have on in the background. And when he's not doing stuff like that, he is doing these, like, travel logs where he just, like, drives around in an old, like, VW bus that he, like, made himself, and he's, like, driving around, the U.S. countryside looking at, where were the source locations for the old Fallout games. Yeah, he's a delight. He's a delight. So that's a recommendation from me, if you're into that kind of crap.
Very cool. Awesome. I want to recommend a couple of documentaries that I've seen recently. First one is currently on Disney Plus. It's called Summer of Soul. It is directed by Questlove, and it is about this music festival that happened the same summer of Woodstock, but because it happened in Harlem and it was primarily funk and soul acts. Even though the entire thing was televised, all of the footage shot sat in a basement until like last year when Questlove got it and edited and made it a documentary.
Wow.
And yeah, it's a like a shocking pull back the camera on the way racism fucking like creeps in and everything, because like no one has heard of this festival, but it showcased how important it was to the people at the time that it was going. And it's like every huge black artist of the time, Nina Simone, Sly and the Family Stone, like everyone that you can think of was there. It's just a fantastic music documentary. It's maybe one of the best edited movies I've seen all year, just how it marries image and talking. Like, people will be talking about, like, there was, like, this time, and, like, this was going on, and then it'll cut to, like, news footage of, like, something happening, and it was just perfect. Every time they put an image to someone talking about something, it was always perfect. It never took me out of it. So that's a great music documentary. Another documentary that I saw that I really loved is Street Gang, which is about the history of Sesame Street. And it was just utterly heartwarming. I could have watched 12 hours of it. I could have watched 2 hours alone on the music. That was a great documentary that helped me remember the fucking songs in Sesame Street are fucking bops, Jameson. They are legitimately great. I need to actually find, like, a soundtrack of the songs from Sesame Street, because they're all, again, they got, like, funk and blues and, like, soul singers in to do it, but they just sang songs about fucking H and whatever, and it's great. And it reminded me that the greatest joke that has ever been told is Kermit the Frog asking the little girl to sing the alphabet, and she goes, A, B, C, D, E, F, Cookie Monster. That is the funniest joke that will ever be told in the history. Stop telling jokes now.
Why? Well, I guess you have to.
You gotta see it, man. You gotta look it up on YouTube. That little girl's got perfect fucking comic timing, and Kermit is the perfect straight man.
Gotcha.
Yes.
Unlike us.
Stay with me. A, B, C, D, E, F, Cookie Monster. Because it's supposed to be G.
And
she says Cookie Monster.
Is the joke that he's not a G?
Ain't nothing but a C thing, baby. That was Kung Fu Chefs, directed by Wing King. Yep, if you enjoyed the show, please check us out on Facebook and Instagram at the F Is This Podcast. We're also on Twitter at the TK_is this. If you're listening to us on Spotify, we also have a YouTube channel that Jameson gives all of these episodes a visual element to it. He works really hard on it. Check it out. If you're already
visual flair.
If you're already on YouTube and you're looking at all the work that Jason's done and be all like, I hate my eyes, get them out of here. You can listen to it on Spotify.
Well, first of all,
fine.
fuck you.
It's fine. And yeah, and I guess that'll do it for another episode. We ended early this time. Jameson, do you have a line to take us out on?
Sure do. Cooking's not hard. Life is hard.
I want to do one more. Can I do one more?
Yeah, go for it. If you got a better one, go for it.
Oh, the cold brim gives my mouth a feeling of rebirth.
Well, that certainly kicked it up. Good night, everybody.
Let's hear you sing the alphabet.
A, B, C, D, E, F, Cookie Monster.